Good afternoon and many thanks for making time to get news as it happens right here on the news desk. My name is Boni Tunya.
And my name is Edith Kimani, and this afternoon we're talking about 14 million pounds or 1.8 billion shillings, if you like. That's a figure that is being touted as unprecedented to be paid off to the Mau Mau who were tortured under the British rule.
Also, the Media Owners Association get a nod to have a third license that is coming from the CCK. Welcome to the program. The UK government is expected this afternoon to make an announcement concerning the payment of the Mau Mau freedom fighters' compensation. British Foreign Secretary William Hague is due to make a statement in the House of Commons from 1:45 p.m. Now, this comes after Britain agreed to a 1.8 billion shillings compensation settlement for thousands of Kenyans that were tortured by colonial forces during the Mau Mau uprising. According to the London Guardian newspaper, the historic compensation will officially be announced today in an occasion in which Britain will express its sincere regret and apologies for the torture inflicted upon the people that were imprisoned during the Mau Mau insurgency. Now, according to lawyers representing the Mau Mau fighters, the negotiations have included everybody with sufficient evidence of torture, number that, according to the sources, amounts to about 5,200 people. Now, after the announcement, the Kenya Human Rights Commission will hold a press conference to give finer details. Our senior reporter Rita Tinina is standing by at the Hilton Hotel, the venue of this presser by the Human Rights Commission, to bring us the very latest on the mood on the ground this afternoon. Good afternoon, Rita.
Good afternoon, Bonnie.
What is the mood like there? Is there jubilation? What do we see on the ground currently?
Well, at the Hilton, in the room where the joint press conference by the Kenya Human Rights Commission and the British High Commission will take place, you can feel the air of excitement here. Just a few minutes ago, a group of the Mau Mau veterans had stood up. They broke into song and dance. But right now, the meeting has now been called to order, but the press conference is here to begin. But really, Bonnie, a very historic day here for the veterans. They have been seeking justice for years. Even at this press conference, some of them are holding placards saying that they told the truth, and finally justice has been done. Bonnie.
Now, Rita, who is at those in that particular premise? Is it just the human rights people or these people? Because we are told the number amounts to about 5,000 people. Who is there?
Of course, the Kenya Human Rights Commission officials who will address the press conference. We are also seeing some representatives from the British High Commission, but also there, I would say, about 50 or so Mau Mau veterans all gathered here. Most of them elderly people, of course, but some of them also accompanied by their families. Some of them have just been speaking to a while back, asking them how they feel. They say they feel happy. They regret what happened those many years back, but they are saying finally justice has been done. And Bonnie, this is not just an important case for Kenya. This is one case that will set a precedent for even other countries. The past people suffered at the hands of the British colonial government. Bonnie.
Right, Rita, and that what you're saying alludes to the fact that we might be seeing more of this action coming from other aggrieved parties that were colonized by British.
Yes, Bonnie. Remember, this case just started by a few representatives. In 2011, they filed what they call the test case back then. Now these are the results. Of course, they have been seeking justice for years since the colonial era. But this particular case, Bonnie, as I said, will set a precedent, not just for many others who feel they were aggrieved by the British colonial government here in Kenya. Remember, this judgment or this announcement will affect about 5,200 families, individuals rather, who get maybe about 300,000 Kenya shillings or thereabouts. These are people who suffered various atrocities. Some men were castrated, some women lost their children, others were tortured and suffered irreparable damage to their body parts. And so really a really historic day for them. They are happy here at the Hilton once the announcement has been made and once we get the details from the Kenya Human Rights Commission as to when the payments will be made. Will it be made by in one tranche? When can they expect the full payment? And of course we'll let Kenyans know in a subsequent bulletins. Bonnie.
Right, many thanks, Rita, for that update. And of course, this is a subject of discussion on social media, so do let us know what you think about this latest move by the UK on our Twitter handle at KTN NewsDesk, on our SMS line that is 8040. Let's go to Meru now, and 7 people died last night after a matatu they were traveling in rammed into a lorry in Ruiru Junction along the Meru-Maua Road in Meru County. 7 others were seriously injured in the 12:30 p.m. incident and were rushed at the Meru Level 5 hospital for treatment. KTN's Eric Njoka has more.
This is what was left of the 14-seater matatu, a mangled wreck that clearly shows the impact of the midnight accident. 5 died on the spot, while 2 passengers succumbed to injuries while undergoing treatment at the Meru Level 5 hospital. The 2 drivers of the truck and matatu are among the dead, and the lorry conductor was found this morning in the nearby bush with minor injuries.
We are certain that 2 of the passengers were police officers, and one of them was an officer from the prisons department. We are yet to establish where they are stationed. One of them survived. One of them most probably is among the ones who have left us. All those we are able to ascertain after we make a revisit to the hospital.
But there was more than just the accident. Instead of passers-by sympathizing with the victims, they instead took advantage to loot their property.
A general appeal to wananchi. We had a very ugly scene. We are at a scene of accident at midnight, but some unscrupulous wananchi, instead of sympathizing and assisting the police and the Red Cross officers, took advantage, came to loot property of those injured or those who have died. I condemn that act, and I'm giving an amnesty. Whoever may have picked or stolen property of those who were involved in the accident, to return them to the police.
Those in hospital are responding well to treatment, and 2 were treated and discharged. The van was traveling from Nairobi to Maua, while the lorry was heading south from Ruiru area when the accident occurred. Bodies of the 7 were moved to Meru Level 5 Hospital mortuary. Eric Njoka, KTN.
A day after journalists were banned from Parliament, the gates remained locked with security personnel briefed not to allow any journalists into the precincts of the National Assembly. Sam Ogina reports from Parliament on retrogression on media freedom instituted by the same institution tasked with law formulation.
Thank you so much, studio. We are coming to you from Parliament buildings, and what is emerging today is that the 11th Parliament is turning out to be the most unpopular Parliament 3 months into existence. Well, the 11th Parliament is actually on a warpath with almost everyone from independent commissions, the office of the President, and now even journalists. Just yesterday, the National Assembly clerk, that is Justin Bundi, issued a directive barring journalists from covering parliamentary proceedings from the precincts of Parliament, from the media centre, that is, saying that Parliament requires more space, that MPs lack space to conduct their business, and the media centre will be converted into a committee room, actually 2 committee rooms, just to create space for transaction of parliamentary business. But it should be remembered that MPs have been on a warpath with the Salaries Review Commission, and the way that their stories has been told has actually act majority of parliamentarians, virtually almost all parliamentarians, because they're all clamoring for a pay hike against the will of Kenyans, even against the will of the President, who says that a pay hike right now, the wage bill of the country cannot handle pay increase for almost 349 members of Parliament. Well, this is one of the factors that might have actually led into the National Assembly's directive for barring journalists for that matter from covering parliamentary proceedings.
Please tell that's your colleagues. Because sisi hatuna ubaya. Ni ile tu mwenyewe sasa. Mimi ni kama wewe tu. Si umetumwa na watu wetu. Sasa sisi tumetumwa hapa na watu wetu.
Yes. Nini unaambia watu amri, unaambia watu usitaki kuona wakai nje. So ni kazi yangu pia mimi nashukuru.
Sawa. Kweli. Ni sawa, ina shida.
that way. So nini hapo kama there's any communication.
Tangoja hapo. Ah, sawa. Now, what we've just experienced is that we are not allowed inside there. As you can see, the gates are closed. Security officers manning the gates, and if at all we are supposed to make our way inside, then we have to identify ourselves by the media house that we are coming from, the kind of function that we are going to cover, who are we going to see if at all we have a planned interview with the parliamentarian. Then the parliamentarian, the member of parliament, has to call the security desk to inform them that so-and-so from particular media house is coming to see me. And now that is exactly what is happening, but only journalists from the state broadcaster are the only ones allowed inside. And also, if you do not have a parliamentary accreditation, then you are not allowed inside the parliamentary building. So far, so good. We just spoken to various security officers, and they say they have gotten a brief from their bosses that we are not allowed inside. What we have to do is actually stay outside the gate, and from there probably that's where they can come check us out, vet us to see if at all our case is genuine. But so far so good, we are not allowed inside parliament buildings. Back to you in studio.
Right, it is indeed a sad day for Kenyan media, but of course we do know there is a meeting scheduled between the clerk of the National Assembly and the Media Council slated for next week that will try and resolve that particular matter. But to other government functions now, following the government's directive on free maternity care services, a crisis is looming as facilities and resources in public hospitals are becoming overstretched. Health workers in public hospitals are now calling on the government to employ more nurses in order to ensure that the standards are not compromised as public health facilities move to comply with the law.
Katra Ali, that's a matron in charge at the Garissa Provincial General Hospital, says more nurses are needed to cope with an upsurge in patient numbers following the implementation of the directive. The hospital has registered a huge increase in the number of expectant women seeking medical attention since the announcement. Now, Katra said the hospital had a shortage of about 150 nurses, and out of the 74 nurses currently at the hospital, only 12 were assigned to the maternity ward, a ratio that falls short of the World Health Organization recommendations.
As much as we need to give the quality, with the number of patients now whom we are getting, we need to increase the number of staffs, and that is something that I still address the president. Let him also look into that angle. Let us get more staffs so that we give the quality, and then we should not also have burnout, because if you deliver 4 mothers in 2 hours, you can imagine the challenges that particular nurse will have.
Elsewhere, U.S. Ambassador to Kenya Robert Godek has reaffirmed his government's commitment to addressing the growing threat of poaching in the country.
Speaking at this year's World Environment Day celebrations at the David Sheldrick Wildlife Trust Elephant Orphanage in the Nairobi National Park, the ambassador reiterated the need to control and address poaching menace right from the community level and create community conservancies.
During the event, the envoy also adopted Tundani, a 1-year-old elephant at the price of $50 US, stating that the adoption was an opportunity to educate the world on the importance of wildlife conservation.
Raising an elephant, it's quite an expensive thing, but the good news is I think that this adoption program offers an opportunity for people all over the world to learn, to contribute, to help, to assist, to address this problem, which really has become so serious here in Kenya and in so many other places. And, you know, elephants are a critical part of the ecosystem. They're a critical part of certainly the environment here in Kenya and so many other places, and protecting them is just essential.
First Lady Margaret Kenyatta, together with Somalia's First Lady Kamar Omar Ali, marked World Environment Day by planting trees at the Sagana State Lodge.
Now, the First Ladies reaffirmed their commitment to conserving the environment in line with this year's theme of Think, Eat, Save and Drink. at the anti-food waste and food loss campaign that encouraged everyone to reduce the carbon footprint. UNDP says that an average of 1.3 billion tons of food is wasted annually, which is equal to the amount of food produced in sub-Saharan Africa.
Margaret Kenyatta has been at the forefront in the campaign to create awareness for environmental conservation efforts in the country. All right, we take a short commercial break.
Yeah, but how much does it cost again to adopt an elephant?
$50 US.
It's affordable.
Well, then do it.
After this, we're having business news where the media owners have gotten the nod to have a third signal license. Stay tuned.